Hi, 7-2 Daystar, and I'm thinking about today the God of the Gaps argument. I've gone through this several times, but the roadblock I come to with my Christian interlocutors that I'm having this exchange with is they try to recast, as Myers and Behe have for the Discovery Institute, try to recast this unknown as positive evidence. The negative, making a negative a positive. Let me explain. Let me flesh that out a little bit. Let's say there's some complex mechanism in a cell that current cell evolution theories can't account for, or don't fully account for. It doesn't really matter. So, God of the Gaps argument typically would go like this. Okay, you can't explain it with your theory, therefore it's evidence for my theory. It's evidence for, my God. And that's fallacious. So to get around that, what they've done is renamed it. Say, it's not just that you can't explain it. That particular thing that you can't explain is specified complexity, or irreducible complexity. I think that's Behe, and specified complexity is Myers. And this is just renaming the unknown and recasting it as positive evidence. And I think I could make a parallel. I'm going to make an analogy. Let's imagine it's around 2,000-ish years ago, and we're some ignorant people out and about thinking about the world around us, and we see that the seed germinates and grows into a plant, and we can account for whether it's wilting or not, because that we just add water. We know about that process. We know if it's growing and it's stretching out and looking for the sun. We know that it needs more light. We can account for that. We can also account for, it's getting spotty and yellow, it doesn't have enough nutrients in its soil. Maybe we would understand that as well. But we don't understand germination. So that's something we know about these processes, and this is beyond those processes. I think this is the origin of, I'd love to know the history of ideas, the history of the idea of the supernatural. I think that would be an interesting thing to look up, but that's a side point. The main point I'm trying to make here is so I'm an ancient theist 2,000 years ago. I say, okay, we can account for the wilting, we can account for the bad nutrients, we can account for the stretching out, looking for light is not enough light. So, those are the natural processes we can account for, but we don't know how germination happens. Therefore, supernatural agent. I think that's an exact parallel. That's an exact parallel of the modern specified complexity or irreducible complexity. I think it's basically just trying to say, well, here's what we know accounts for, and this is beyond what we know, therefore it requires it's support for my premise. It's support for my my assertion that a God exists. So if anyone could point out how those do not parallel, let me be specific. The modern argument that Myers and Behe put forward, and my analog from the ancient world, we can account for certain things about how plants grow, and that becomes the profane, the human, the natural part of reality. And then, but we can't account, say, at that time we couldn't account for germination. So would that become a supernatural event? I think it is still a God of the Gaps argument, and I don't think they're really getting around it. But it's gotten a little bit as coarse a tone as some of my favorite Christian locutors have ever taken has been on this point. That no, it is complexity is positive evidence for God, and then the conversation broke down. So I'm wondering if anyone can carry the ball a little further by pointing out how my analogy of the ancient world being unable to explain, say, germination, is in some way not a good analog for Behe's specified or irreducible complexity and Myers' specified complexity. So that's the ideas for today. If anyone could engage me on that, I would appreciate it. Until later, 7-2 Daystar, out.